Hi everyone, my name is Aervosa, and today I'd like to tell you about the story of my computer Blue and how I brought her back to life. The year was 2006, and my dad had just come home saying he had bought a new computer for us to use. And I'd been using our old one for as long as I could remember, trying to beat Pajama Sam and play the many games my parents had bought, and I was really sad at the idea of not using it anymore. But that quickly changed once I saw how pretty it was in its incredible blue case. And over the next couple hours, my dad laid out tons of parts all over the floor, and he slowly pieced it together one by one like a giant Lego set. And when it was finally ready, we pushed the power button on the front. The front grille glowed blue, and it loaded faster than I could have ever imagined. I could finally make my own user on the computer with a pretty flower for the icon. I could play newer and bigger games that came out. I did still have to share it with my siblings, though. Fast forward many years later to the year 2024, and I had my own PCs that I proudly built to make art, play games, and decorate to my heart's content. I had long forgotten about the now old computer until I happened to go into a back closet to get something and spotted its still shiny blue case sitting there with a dead hard drive waiting to be recycled. And I knew as soon as I saw it that I was going to rescue Blue and add it to my new little family of computers. So I went to my parents and asked if I could take a stab at reviving it to relive those younger days, and they said I could. Of course, otherwise there wouldn't be a video. And to my surprise, they threw in the added bonus that if I could bring Blue back to life, not only could I have the computer, I could also have all its accessories and the old CDs that went with it. Now, let me explain why this ended up being a bit of a bigger deal than I initially realized. See, back in the day, my dad was part of what was called the Microsoft Developer Program that would mail him binders of material every month to keep up with the latest software, and my dad had kept virtually all of them. After organizing the contents of a couple dusty boxes, I was left with this ridiculous collection of old software, including TechNet packages, Microsoft beta disks, Visual Studio, Windows installations, pre-release versions of Office and Windows 2000, drivers, art programs, and even old internet packages, many of which are still sealed, and almost everything still has their serial codes. To add on to this ridiculousness, my mom also was a teacher and loved buying us educational games that not only helped us learn, but get used to the computer as well. And this grew into its own massive CD gaming collection over the years that she had also kept in perfect condition. While many of them don't have their boxes anymore, most of them still have their manuals, don't have a scratch on them. There are even some funky demo discs with hundreds of old game titles on them. I was absolutely going to make sure this computer ran again, not only to play all of those amazing games and titles for you guys here on YouTube, but also for little me, so I could go back and actually defeat Pajama Sam, Thunder and Lightning Ain't So Frightening. I never got past that stupid weather control level. So, feeling confident, I opened it up right away to an absolute dust-covered rat's nest of parts and cables. And man, I'm gonna be honest, I just immediately closed it back up and used it as set decor for the next couple months. When my brain did finally come around to tackling old Blue, I started an intense cleaning process and took a log of everything the system had, which included a generic brand case from 2005 that I cannot find anywhere else on the internet. A user managed to find a case called the RAID Max Tornado ATX 238, which is pretty close, but still not quite right. I have no idea. A very shiny blue Ultra D1005 500-watt power supply that I'm assuming came with the case because it matched the color. The Intel Desktop Board D955XBK Extreme Series. That definitely came bundled with the case because we can see a diorama of it included here on the side panel of the case. We also have a 2.8 GHz Intel Pentium D 920 CPU, a gross standard issue Intel Socket 775 CPU cooler, which would have come stock back in the day either with the Pentium 4 or the Pentium D we have here, and an even grosser 256 megabyte Geforce 7300 GS, along with 4 sticks of hilariously mix-matched 1 gigabyte DDR2. In addition, the build had a couple 120mm fans, one at the front and one at the back of the case, 2 CD and DVD drives, decent hard drive space and case expansion bays, an extra adapter port to go in one of the bays, and a parallel CD writer from Hewlett-Packard that my dad threw in for funsies. Now, obviously, after all these years, I assumed most, if not all, the parts might not be working properly, and my dad and I couldn't even remember what OS was originally on the board at the time. So I decided to start off small with step 1, finding out what worked and what didn't. I removed the motherboard and gave it a thorough cleaning, removing the ancient cooler and equally ancient thermal paste, which surprisingly wasn't complete concrete, which was very nice, and replaced it with a temporary CPU cooler that's socket compatible and significantly cleaner, which ended up being an Evercool low-profile cooler, since I wasn't sure what kind of headroom I'd have with this vent cone attached to the side panel. I also bought this pretty power cable to match the case since Blue's was very missing. And with all of that, we were ready to test the parts. During my first posting attempt after the cleanup and getting her back together, the power LED on the motherboard came on when I flipped on the power supply, but hitting the power button on the front of the case just caused it to spin up for a minute and promptly turn back off. So from this I guessed, or rather hoped, that the CPU and the motherboard were probably fine, and that the power supply was probably toast. So I went back out and I picked up a 500 watt power supply from PowerSpec, in addition to a 256GB SATA SSD from Micro Center's brand Inland, just in case all of this worked and I could actually install the OS. And after installing this brand new power supply, holy guacamole, it turned on and we were into the BIOS. I was very, very excited. So, since everything that was currently plugged in was functioning, I decided to start doing some research on the motherboard itself and managed to find this beautiful packet of information. This packet of information came with not only the manual for the board, but it also came with these wonderful old additional pamphlets. We had Intel special offers, product-related updates, this quick reference guide, and let me just show you guys, by quick reference guide, what this entails. I mean, it's a bit much. Is it upside down? It's probably upside down. It's huge, look at this, and it's wonderful, and it's so nice to be able to look at, and in addition to that, they have another one here that's an integration guide that's just as big, and it's really wonderful actually being able to see it all this up close in this wonderful packet that I was frankly not actually expecting when I ordered it. I got so many things. So, with all of that, I crafted a plan on what to do with Blue next, which involved step number 2, figuring out the OS. I started by burning an install of Windows 2000 Professional to a CD. Now, I could have used one of the Windows 2000 beta disks from my dad's collection, which would have been really cool, but unfortunately it's a little bit above my pay grade, so I just stuck with a regular install. Now, when I went to go put the CD in just to see what we were working with, I found out very quickly that the top CD drive from Sony is very dead, but thankfully the bottom one works just fine, albeit being a little bit loud. Now, I went with Windows 2000 for 2 specific reasons. One, it was built on the same architecture that eventually went on to be used for Windows XP, and that should allow me to be able to play Windows XP games without any issues. In addition, it can also run older Windows 95 and 98 titles, which a lot of the games in my collection run on, so having both of those capabilities means that this is a perfect happy medium of the two. Testing the CD out, the Windows 2000 setup screen came right up, and I was good to go to add the SSD into the build. And after getting it all plugged in, I booted it up again, and unfortunately it didn't recognize the drive was even plugged in. I did some troubleshooting, and thankfully the new drive I bought didn't have to be R-made. What ended up happening was much simpler. Now that the drive showed up, I went to actually try and install Windows 2000, and it didn't take, which led me to do some more troubleshooting and research, and what I found out is SATA came out after Windows 2000, and because of this, the main drive setting on SATA drives is ACHI, which isn't compatible with Windows 2000. So this ended up being a really easy fix as well. I went into the BIOS to the settings for the drive, changed it from ACHI to IDE, a drive setting that's compatible with Windows 2000, and it worked, thankfully, and it picked it back up and started the install with no more issues. At long last, it was off to the races allocating partitions. Taking a very leisurely stroll through all of the loading screens, I named her Blue, and waiting for that faithful screen to show that I had done it. And after all these years, Blue was up and running Windows 2000 Professional. After I'd finished celebrating that it was working, I moved on to the next part, which was getting it all the updates it needed, or as updated as it possibly could be for Windows 2000. Now to accomplish this, I didn't want to connect the PC to the internet because I'm too lazy to deal with the nonsense and security risks of having a very old OS connected to all of that, which thank goodness for the internet actually, because the Internet Archives had a copy someone had uploaded of the drive CD for this motherboard, which made my life 1,000 times easier. I was able to go on Internet Archive, download all the files I needed, and I formatted a very special thumb drive just for Blue that I can put all of the files on from my modern PC, put on the thumb drive, plug it into Blue, and install it from there, so Blue never touches the internet, and it's completely updated. And once I had everything as up to date as it will ever be, the first thing I tried out was this wonderful Windows 95 games demo disc with the tagline, "Turn your nerves inside out." It comes with a variety of titles to try out that you can select by physically walking around and going to them, or selecting it from this menu. I obviously went with Doom 95, and while this wasn't anything groundbreaking, it was still really exciting to see. Oh my gosh, there it is! That's so cool! Now that Blue is alive and kicking, I moved on to our last step, the final touches. I cleaned up the rest of the dust, added 2 new 120mm Cooler Master fans to the front and back, removed the old hard drive slots and extra ports to make room for the SSD to fit nicely in a bottom slot, and did some cable managing to make it pretty. The old fans got permanently quarantined due to A, being super gross, and B, the clear fan's blue LED being super broken, and strobing so bad it would probably cause a seizure if I left it in. Which made me really sad. That blue glow at the front of the case was what I remembered most about Blue back in the day when I was a kid, and the new replacement fans I bought were supposed to emulate this, but unfortunately the motherboard doesn't give them quite enough power in order for them to light up. Next up though, I picked up 2 properly matching kits of Mushkin Essentials 2GB 667MHz DDR2 RAM, which is overkill since Windows 2000 or any 32-bit system can only ever use 4GB of RAM unless you patch the BIOS, but I'm thinking in the future I might do a 64-bit Windows XP dual boot on this computer, which would use all 8GB, so it's kinda there for future use. Now, in addition to this, I also added an adapter that gave me 2 extra USB ports onto the back that my dad dug out of a box somewhere, completing the back I/O. And last but not least, the monitor you can see here, which is a 75Hz Samsung 713N monitor. I had options for bigger and better monitors, but I really liked this one. I think the rounded base is super cute, and I like that the silver matches all of Blue's accents. Also, to address the very green elephant in the room, this no-name gummy membrane keyboard from an unknown year is truly horrible to look at, and it's even worse to type on, but it does match my dinosaur mousepad. Now, my dad had given me a couple other options as well, namely this keyboard and mouse set, which was actually the set that we used with Blue back in the day, and unfortunately, they don't work anymore, and they're honestly kind of gross. The other option he gave me, which was equally as hilarious, was this travel kit from Microsoft that is even tinier and has the world's smallest mouse that I have ever seen in my entire life. But I have a PS2 connecting mouse and keyboard that are on their way soon to use for future gameplays, so for now, the green monster stays. And that's where Blue's at today. She's running DirectX 9, Windows 2000, and is honestly refreshingly snappy compared to my modern systems. And I've been going on quite the nostalgia trip in the meantime leading up to this filming, playing everything from Zoo Tycoon to Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds, Muppet Treasure Island, and Disney Royal Horse Show, and of course, 3D Space Pinball. But all of those games, truth be told, don't really have a lot of performance impact or any heavy hardware requirements in order to run well. So, how would brand new Blue fare running one of the most brutal games from the period, Doom 3? And we are in to Doom 3. Now, I'm not going to be going through any actual gameplay because I don't want to spoil anything for myself. I'm going to be playing this as a series coming up on the channel, Be There or Be Square, and instead what we're going to do is use the game's built-in benchmark. Now, to show you guys what we're working with, if we go here to Options, System, and then look up here, we are running at ultra quality on 1280 by 1024, which is going to be brutal. But I really want to see what Blue's currently capable of. So, in order to do that, I'm going to exit back out of this, go into the command center for the game, which is Control-Alt-Tilde. and then type in something that I found on a random blog post from 2004, which I was very grateful for, which is a time demo. And we're going to use one specifically that preloads the cache so that we don't have to run the benchmark multiple times in order to get an accurate score. And said demo is time demo, demo1.demo use cache. So let's get that typed in and then see what it does. Okay. And we're off. All right, it's now pre-caching, so I'm gonna zoom in the screen here a little bit and let you guys see what all this looks like. Alright, so as you can see, my fantastic frames per second is 14.9, which is terrible. So obviously there's a lot more potential that we could get out of Blue with the current motherboard that's in it, so I went ahead and, in anticipation of this not going well, picked up a few more parts. We have the 3.73 GHz Intel Pentium 4 Extreme Edition, model SL7Z4 from Costa Rica, which is actually where one of my subscribers comes from. The ultra-quiet CPU cooler CNPS 9700 LED with whatever the heck super thermal grease is, and it's supposed to glow blue to match the case, which I hope it does, unlike the other fans that I bought. And a sealed, new old stock Geforce EVGA 9800 GTX Plus. All of these parts are right over in the other room, so I'm gonna grab Blue, take her over to the workbench, and we're gonna do some unboxing and some upgrades. Or at least I hope we will. I don't know if any of the parts work, actually, yet, because I haven't put them in. And here we are at my workbench. So what we're going to start with is I'm going to actually move Blue off for now, and we're going to go through the unboxings to show you guys the CPU, the cooler, and the GPU. So, get to pick this up again. So getting started, we have the brand new CPU from Intel. The front has a little bit of wear on it. The back looks perfect though, and I did have to clean a little bit of gunk off of him. There was some residual thermal paste, but overall he looks like he's going to be totally fine. So not much left there to unbox. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have the Zelman cooler. Now this one was not sealed. This one was already pre-used and opened, so I'll be interested to see what exactly this one turns out looking like. We have a box, apparently with some accessories. There we are. It looks like we have an adapter for the motherboard just in case we need one. We also have a bunch of additional accessories, all the connectors, all the screws, and hopefully everything is there that we will need when we go to put it in. Moving on to the fan itself, let's carefully take this out. And there we go. There's the fan that is clear and is supposed to glow LED blue, which I'm very excited for. I hope it does. It looks like right off that a couple of the fins of the radiator are a little bent. Hopefully the copper can bend easily back into place. I might leave it though, I don't want to break it, but let's go ahead and get this guy popped open. Quite hefty. Again, we can see here at the top that some of the fins are a little bent, which is unfortunate. Overall, it seems pretty good though. Let's take a look at the bottom. Not too bad. A little bit of wear on it, but overall that faceplate looks perfectly fine to use. The heat pipes are really nice and substantial, and I love this crisscross pattern that they do. Hopefully this guy does a fantastic job. There's more than enough copper here to go around in order to disperse the heat from the new CPU, so hopefully this will be a good upgrade. And here we are. We have a brand new EVGA GeForce 9800 GTX Plus. It is mostly sealed, as you can see. It's not perfect, it's coming off a little bit, but the rest of it is in fact still sealed. So it's sliding around a little bit in the box, so let's go ahead and get this open and see what we're working with. I don't think I'm going to need a knife for this because this plastic is quite old. And there we are. There is a little damage to the box. Hopefully the internals are totally fine. And it looks like both sides are sealed, so give me one moment while I grab a knife. and there we have it. We have CDs, we have the connector cable, we got a sticker. Oh, heck yeah. Let's see, what is this? We have an EVGA Intelligent Innovation Display Driver Installation CD. Next up, we have the graphics card installation guide, the connectors for the motherboard. And last but not least, we have the card itself. It is very pretty. Taking a look at it, it seems like there is some unfortunate damage to the front plate. There's a bit of scuffing here and down here, but overall it looks alright. Obviously it's never been opened before, so I don't have to worry about that, which is also very important with cards of this period, because cards of this time period didn't really have any throttling in order to make sure that the power it drew didn't go overboard like modern components. So people could use these and use these and use these, and they would eventually just toast themselves to death. Since this one is brand new and I'm going to be using it a lot more gently than that, this one should definitely last a lot longer in my collection and inside Blue. Taking a look at the back, we have a PS2 connector plus 2 DVI ports, which obviously is why we have a DVI to VGA connector that they gave us so that we can hook it up to the monitor, which is lovely. Everything looks really, really good. I'm super excited to plug this in, and hopefully she works and will give us some really good results. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first step of this rebuild is removing the rest of the dust hidden behind the back of this side panel. After about 20 minutes of torture trying to remove the panel that had been happily stuck in place for 20 years, I was able to remove all of these dust bunnies, wipe everything down, and Blue was finally completely clean and ready to go. Next up, we have to remove the entire motherboard in order to get our new parts installed. That includes unscrewing all the screws and unplugging all the things. Now that that's done and we can take it out, the old CPU cooler has these retention screws that were holding it in place on the back. So we remove those and simply pop off the old cooler. Now we just gotta get it all cleaned up and we're ready to install the new CPU. Installing it's pretty straightforward. You just line it up with the indicator on the board and drop it in place. Drop it slightly off though and I could be out several $100s. 10 out of 10, always my favorite part of the build. Our Zellman cooler and its many odd pieces is up next. The seller failed to include the manual, so God bless the internet once again for having that uploaded for public use, otherwise I would have been here literally all day. I attempted to figure it out on my own out of sheer spite and wasted about 40 minutes of my life. The first step is getting the new motherboard adapter in place, and then heavily inspecting my thermal paste options. These are both from the early 2000s, and starting with the thermal grease included with the CPU cooler, apparently the stuff was pretty good back in the day, but this tiny little bottle only had enough for 1 or 2 uses, and I was not going to risk using the drips and drabs left in mine. The other option I have here is from when my dad originally built Blue back in the day. Why does he still have this? I have no idea. Again, it's too old to use, so instead, let's apply the thermal paste that came with my Noctua cooler that is brand new and has a good rating. After putting potentially a bit too much on there and smushing the cooler into place, we can move on to this funky little metal piece that holds the cooler down by fitting it in between the pipes in a specific orientation. And this is held in by 2 screws on either side, allowing the cooler to be mounted vertically or horizontally, which is really cool. Screwing it in though was pretty tricky and definitely revealed why some of those delicate copper plates got bent from the last person that installed it. The manual for this cooler also explicitly said that if you want to use this, you have to remove any case side vent. Apparently these were so common back in the day that they felt they had to make an official note of it in the manual. Getting these little rubber retention clips out was an easy but obnoxiously tedious process. But out they came, and now we can start getting the build back together. We repeat step number 2, but in reverse, getting all the screws back in and all the components plugged back into their proper spots, and start our attempt at installing the new GPU. And I say attempt because I quickly realized that this guy did not fit in the case as nicely as the last one. These gray back I/O clips on the side here are a cool feature of the case and eliminate the need for screws, but they're not compatible with anything larger than a 1-slot card. So they had to go. And thankfully taking them out was easier than the side vent. And with that, our new GPU slots perfectly into place. With those side clips removed though, I needed to grab some case screws I had left over from another build to hold everything in place. And after popping the case fan back in and plugging in the power cable, we're ready to see if this baby turns on. Hey! Got a It's very loud. Now the astute of you might notice right away that the GPU has no power cable connected to it. And you would be correct.
3:28 a.m.
Hello, this is me admitting to the world that I'm a moron, and I was like, why isn't it posting? I never plugged a power cable into the GPU. That would probably help. It's like 4 in the morning. I'll figure it out. Oh. Yes! It's working! Oh gosh. I don't know why the wind monitor's green, but I don't care. It's turning on. Yay! Yes! She's alive! It's alive! So, I have no idea why on earth the screen is totally yellow. It's fine though, we'll figure it out. Exit. Welcome, newfound hardware! Yay! What do we got? Video controller VGA compatible? Oh no, I gotta find a driver. Oh no. Okay, I am back. I have on this thumb drive formatted for Blue a driver that should be able to make the new GPU we have compatible with this, so I can have it better than just 16-bit color at 480 and go back to the lovely 1024 that we had it at before. So I'm going to run the executable off this file, and hopefully that driver will make everything lovely. So let us get this plugged in and figured out. So I'm gonna go here. My computer, removable disk F, and we've got 258.96 desktop for Windows XP 32-bit, and we'll see what happens. I'm hoping I won't have to remove the old one since the old card was also an NVIDIA, so we'll see if this works. Alright, we're at the install wizard, NVIDIA display drivers for your computer. License agreement, yada yada yada. Install Show Wizard has successfully installed NVIDIA Windows 2000 display drivers. Before you can use the program, you must restart your computer. Hey! Hey, that looks better. It's still yellow, but it looks better. Everything looks correct now, except it's still a little yellow. Let me do... Interesting, so this is showing up fine. I'm gonna do the auto adjust on the monitor and see if that fixes anything. Nope, still yellow. Weird. Okay. And it's fixed, yay! So it was, again, a really simple fix, thankfully. There are 2 DVI ports on the back of the new graphics card. The one I plugged it into first was the one on the right, which I will show here. And this one is what I plugged it into originally, and it was what was causing the yellow output. So I switched it to the one on the left, and it's done. It's perfect. Like, it works perfectly. The new driver's in. I have my 256 colors back. I have full resolution, and we are good to go to run the Doom 3 benchmark once again with all the new hardware. So let me get some stuff cleaned up, take the CD out, and we're going to do that next. Doom 3, once again. Let's do it. Aww. Oh, so I'm going to go ahead and put the side panel back on because this guy's a little loud. Options to show again. System, we are on ultra quality. We are on 1280 by 1024, full screen, brightness is average. Alright, I'm gonna step out of the way, let this do its thing, and then we'll be right back with the results. Oh my god! That finished so fast! What the heck? 78.5 frames per second! That is so much faster! It went so fast, like as soon as it turned on, it would look like it was in 4 times speed. Oh my gosh. Guys, I am so excited. I have so much planned for this computer. I am thrilled that all the new old stock parts worked, and they're working really good. So besides being really excited to have Blue back, I absolutely am going to be playing a lot of the old titles that I showed you guys on the channel. That was one of the main things I really wanted to do with this. Obviously, the one I'm going to be starting with is a playthrough of Doom 3, which I hope you guys are really gonna enjoy. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna capture the audio and set up the camera and everything for you guys to watch it, but look forward to that. Additionally, if there's any games that you saw in the old library that I showed at the beginning of the video that you are like, I played this when I was little and I would really love to watch it again, or just kind of out of curiosity to see what some of these old titles looked like, let me know in the comments on what games you want me to pull off the shelf and play for the video. And additionally, if you're interested, I of course have a whole video going over my Animal Crossing PC build where I modded a Cooler Master NR200P case in order to vertically fit a Noctua 3070 GPU that I have lovingly named Blathers. So you can go watch that video if you're interested. I also have a Discord that I'm hosting for the channel. It's small, but everyone in there is absolutely lovely. We're talking about old retro titles along with Doom games. There's some Animal Crossing fans in there. So if you're interested in joining our Discord, I'd love to have you guys. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys come back for more if you like what you see. I have a ton more games that I've played on the channel and a lot more I'm interested in doing as well. And until the next video, I hope you guys are happy and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Did you guys know? I figured this out when I was little, and I'm so glad I figured out how to do it again. If you go to Properties, you go to Appearance, you can create your own custom appearance. So I made one called Aervosa. This is my favorite one when I was little. And you apply it, and it turns everything pink. I love it. It makes me so happy. Ah.